Yesterday, I was talking with my brother, right? And I found myself getting on the topic of why certain things like seem to bother me so much. And I started digging deeper into it, and it's because of how I used to associate certain words towards myself, my identity. I used to have very conflicting ideas of myself, and as I've gotten older, I've seen that manifested in being triggered by certain words or even certain like compliments, because I was like, yeah, well, that's not really true. That's not true because of how I perceive myself. And I started, with the help of my brother, I was like, why is it that these things bother me so much? It's because of the association that I gave to this word or to this meaning or phrase. I gave such a negative association to something, which sparked what could be perceived as an obscene reaction to it. And I've talked about this before, but just seeing that in real time yesterday with myself showed that not only do I need to do a lot more work, just inner shadow work within myself, but I figured this could help someone else as well. You have the power to change what certain things mean to you. If you find yourself getting easily reactionary to certain phrases, maybe something happened to you as a kid, or maybe someone said a whole bunch of rather nasty things to you as a kid, and you found yourself as an adult still getting affected when people say those things, whether it's to you or to someone else, right? You have the power to change what it is that it means to you. You and you alone. You have the power to alchemize and just completely override what that meaning, what that association you have with something means, right? And it's hard. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of inner strength to be able to sit with those emotions, to be able to deal with them and to tolerate them and to actually understand where they came from. But you can change what it is that it means to you. In my case, right, I used to, so I still kind of do, I don't really like the R word, right? The R is the slur, whatever you might want to call it. I don't really like that, and it bothers me still to this day. How you doing, man? It still bothers me to this day, where it's like, I find myself still having these like deep-seated emotions within me whenever I hear someone call me that, right? Get really triggered easily because of how I associated that word when I was a kid, right? People used to call me that all the time, and I didn't like it, right? And I tried my best to not be associated with that word, right? Trying to prove my intelligence in a way that was not deemed as that, right? To the point where I was like, I would just get so offended, right? When in reality, I know that that word has no meaning on me, but I still found myself having these feelings because I never truly sat with those emotions and try to comprehend where they came from and change it, right? I never tried to change it, right? It's just something that was just kind of in the back burner, and so whenever I hear it, I subconsciously get thrown back to when I was a kid and how I used to react, right? So with that being said, what I realized yesterday, more so again, because with my journey, and I would imagine with everyone's journey, it's just a constant cycle of just constantly relearning things or constantly experiencing emotions, old emotions. That's just how it is for me. But what I realized again yesterday is that, you know, I still had such a negative association with that word, to the point where I had such an adverse reaction, where I could have just let it go or processed it in a different way, to where it wouldn't have resulted in me being so outwardly harsh. I think that's a very pretty good way of putting it, right? Whereas had I actually changed that association of the word that I have with it, you know, I would have been able to better handle hearing that in terms of me, right? And this could be with anything, with anyone. It doesn't matter what it is, right? Whether it's an event, you know, whether it's, you know, a word or a phrase, like I was saying earlier. Doesn't matter what it is. You have the power to change, to sit with yourself and understand that, hey, this does not have as much power as I'm giving it over me, right? You can change how much power something has over you, but you have to actually sit with yourself and actually, you know, do the work, right? And it takes a while. It takes a lot of, I would say it takes a lot of time actually dealing with that, because as humans, you know, we don't like dealing with uncomfortable emotions. That's why we seek pleasure. That's why we seek distraction, right? So we don't have to deal with those uncomfortable emotions, right? A lot of people cannot bear sitting by themselves, cannot bear sitting in their own self, in their own mind, without some form of a distraction, right? Why do you think so many people are addicted to social media, addicted to drugs, addicted to pleasure, right? You know, because they don't like the idea of sitting in their own thoughts, sitting in their own head, because their own head is scary. But if you can do that, if you can actually sit with yourself consistently, right? It's another thing with consistency. You have to continuously do this thing, right? And be like, hey, this does not have as much power, or this does not have power over me, right? Eventually, it's going to get to a point where it's like, you're right, it doesn't have power over me. And it's not going to trigger you, or it's not going to affect you in a way to where, in a way that was as negative, or it doesn't even matter what it is, right? But you have to be willing to sit with yourself and process those emotions. A lot of people aren't willing to. I wasn't willing to, right? I found myself, you know, getting constantly distracted by things, you know, constantly trying to do something else instead of doing the own work internally, right? Or I would do the work internally for a while, but then I would stop, and then it led to the point to where subconsciously, I was still not really recovered in the sense that I wanted to be anyway, from the association that I had with certain things. Because it's not just the R word, it's other things that really get under my skin. But like I'm saying, I have the power to change that. But it starts with me, you know, sitting with myself and understanding that, hey, it doesn't have to be this way. You don't have to react as negatively as you are.